Welcome back to Inside Politics. Our guest today is Nashville baseball historian Skip Nipper. We're talking about the MLB franchise perhaps coming here, an MLB franchise coming here, and also we're talking now just about the game itself. Skip, when MLB shut down the pandemic during the spring training back in March, at that time, did you think the season was going to be over?
I thought the season would never start. I mean, I didn't think that they would ever regroup and get this thing going again. And kudos to Major League Baseball for making it happen. I do think that go ahead.
Now, during games, I think that there was some concern or some thought early on that Major League Baseball would go to the bubble system that the NBA and NHL have used successfully, but they looked at it and rejected it. Even with the limited schedule and the regional travel that we talked about before, were you still concerned when they finally got back in July that it wasn't going to work?
Oh, yeah, I think so. And then the bubble, you know, as we go into the postseason, they're creating these bubbles in 2 cities for the Western playoffs and 2 for the Eastern, and ultimately for the World Series. I think that's an idea to protect those players and keep them in a bubble so that they can make these games happen.
So how did Major League Baseball make this work? They're the only professional sport that had teams traveling around it, and the NFL's doing it now. We'll see how it works with them. But how did Major League Baseball make it work? I know they constricted travel, but even then they had enough problems with several teams early on. They thought this was still going to have the season implode.
Yeah, and it's a health problem, you know, across the country that just filtered right down into Major League Baseball. But you, as a St. Louis Cardinals fan, know what restrictions that made on the St. Louis Cardinals. They have to make up some games still, and you know, for a while they'd only played 5 or 6 games, and others had played 20.
Nothing like this has ever happened before in sports. It's a pretty big change, particularly in a tradition-bound sport like baseball, to have the playoffs and the World Series at neutral sites. In fact, there's never been a World Series played at a neutral site. In '44, St. Louis played all the games in St. Louis because the Browns and the Cardinals were in it, but those both their home fields. Do you think people are going to like that? Do you like it?
Oh, I like it. I think as long as there's a World Series. In fact, I think all the things that Major League Baseball has been doing is to get to the World Series where the fan interest is the most and also probably the money is the most. And with revenue sharing, the players are for that too. I saw a little blurb the other day when they announced that Global Life Stadium, where the new Global Life Stadium that the Texas Rangers will be playing in going forward. A fellow said, well, since the World Series is going to be played there, this year is probably the only time it'll ever be played there because the Texas Rangers aren't having so good a season right now.
There've been no fans at the games. It's been pretty much done for television. Have you liked the fake crowd noise?
I do not like the fake crowd noise. I'm not a big fan of that. I'm not a fan of the cardboard cutouts are kind of fun and I think unique, and letting the mascot still get involved with what crowds are there. I think it makes for a good narrative on television. I think that's good. I'm not a fan of the crowd noise. For
an odd kind of reason, though, won't the fake crowd noise and these fake cardboard fans be perhaps among the most interesting and lasting, if strange, memories of this particular season?
Oh, I think it sure will. But, you know, once again, I think that's a question for a player. Did a player like it? I saw where the Titans head coach the other day was not a big fan of it. Thought it was maybe a little odd in Denver to have that crowd noise going. Maybe for television or maybe even for radio, that makes a little bit better narrative. But I'm just not a fan of it.
Baseball implemented some new rules for this season. There's a 3-batter minimum for relief pitchers, a runner on second to begin every half inning in an extra inning game, and the designated hitter is finally in the National League. How have those rules worked, and what do you think about those rules changes?
I think the rule changes are good, especially for the designated hitter, because it puts everybody on a level playing field. You know, the American League had such strong pitching many, many years ago that they put in the DH so that it would kind of level the pitching and the hitting. But I never understood why they either didn't take it away when the talent was the same in both leagues, or whether they didn't add it to the National League. Some of those other rules, I think, are being investigated as to whether they'll go forward with them.
Do you think any or all of them will be kept for next season?
I think it's possible. I think I know you're going to see the designated hitter. I just have no doubt that that's going to happen. The three player limit for pitchers, you know, I think that's probably been a good thing. Putting a man on second base with nobody outs kind of takes some of the the strategy out of the game. The new strategy for a man on second base with nobody out is bunt him or sacrifice him to third and then single him home, and then the game might be over.
MLB also imploded and shut down its minor league system this year, putting together an expanded team of players that went to a designated spring training site to call up players when they're injured or on paternity leave or had COVID issues. How has that worked, and is that the wave of the future?
I think it's definitely the wave of the future. One thing, Pat, we have to remember, some of the minor league players that were signed under contracts were not making minimum wage. And I think when they contract teams, that gives the Major League Baseball, if they take over minor league baseball, and I think they will, gives them an opportunity to be sure that the players that are under contract make a living wage.
So is this the end of A-ball completely and double-A ball? And what about triple-A? I mean, they're going to keep a triple-A team if they've got this other sort of designated team down at their minor league complex?
Probably, because I think AAA and AA are probably safe. One of the things that they've eliminated is they've taken away some of the draft. So I think I wouldn't be surprised if one of these days you don't see an MLB combine, just like the Major League Baseball combine does, because these baseball teams are cutting their staffs for their scouting, and I think that says to us that they want to cut their expenses along with the travel expenses.
You mentioned MLB's already shortened its player draft. They've also ended several of the rookie and A-leagues. They were going to do this before the pandemic ever hit. That ends a long tradition of a lot of these leagues, particularly in the Appalachian League up in Upper East Tennessee. Is that a good thing for baseball that often treasures its tradition? Does it help or hurt the sport?
I think Major League Baseball owners, I think it helps them. I think that you're going to see more leagues that you've never heard of before, like Johnson City and some of those other Appalachian League teams become a member of a wood bat league or a collegiate summer league. I don't think baseball is going to go away in those cities. I think it's just going to come up in a different form.
Skip Nipper is our guest on Inside Politics. Skip, thanks so much for being with us to share your wisdom with us about baseball and what may lie ahead. Who's going to win the World Series?
Who's going to win? The New York Yankees, the hottest team going right now, don't you think?
Could be. Thank you very much. Good to see you.
Thank you, Pat. I appreciate you.
That's Inside Politics for this week. Thank you so much for joining us. Hope you'll be back here again for a future show. If you can't get about politics in the meantime, go to Lou's Found My website. You'll find my Capitol View commentary there. There's a new commentary posted every Friday afternoon. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we'll see you here next time. Goodbye.